Good morning. Good morning. Good
Hello.
morning. Good morning.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? Carlos from 349 Trading here. Listen, really quick. I know you guys are not here to see me. You're here to see, whoop, this way, Romeo. And
And love.
down here, Love. They're going to be live trading for you guys today. They're going to be showing you the charts, answering any questions you guys have. So without further ado, take it away, Romeo.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Gonna have a couple screens up for you guys to take a look at. I'm here with Love. You know me and Love. We're going back to the OG days with 349 trading. Yes, yes. So Love, I'm gonna talk about my trading a little bit. What I got into early in the morning. But did you get into anything today?
Get into? No. I only sold things. So all I did this morning was sell any calls that I had, especially the AMD ones, right in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, AMD. Kind of. Yeah, I feel like they're filling the gap, right? So that way, if they want to take off, they don't have to worry about the gap fill. But they crushed earnings. I just felt like it's a little crazy drop right now. Yeah, it's crazy. Spy's doing crazy stuff. I haven't gotten into Spy yet. I like getting my stuff early in the morning, but I just looked at Oxy this morning, which was on my watch list, right? So we have that 349 platform. We put watch list out. Love tells us, what she's looking at. I say, this is what I'm looking at, for entries and everything like that. So I played the opposite what I said I was going to do, right? So I had for Oxy, I had calls and puts on my top right hand screen, and I said, okay, well, if it breaks and above calls, I'm going to go up and get calls below. I'm going to get puts. But what I saw was a little bit different, right? I saw the morning open and we gapped up, right? So I felt like, okay, we're going to come back down. And this was a perfect opportunity for me to see if I want to take puts. And, when I saw the crossovers happening, I took my puts right here, which was at 938. At 938 level was when it broke out of the EMA 200 on the 1 minute chart. Now, not a lot of people like to play the 1 minute chart. Just be careful because 1 minute is very hectic if you're not, if you're
Good
not
for scalping.
Yeah.
What I do, right? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know Love was like, yeah, I'm not gonna play the 1 minute. I play the 1 minute chart, right? But 15 minute, the 5, the 10, they're the safe ones, right? 3 minutes is also really good. But me, just because I like to get scalped, I like to be in and out of a position, and I'm a little upset at myself because I didn't hold it a little bit longer. But I just take a look, right? So I got in at $63, which is at the bottom right here. This is a live trade, so this isn't like, some of these gurus will tell you, oh, you got into this and and they got out, right? So this is an actual trade that happened. At 938, I got in for 63, and at 948, I got out at 78, which was about $15 profit. And I only did one contract because I just wanted to test the water, right? Because it's early in the morning, and I got out the moment we tested my calls area, right? Because this is the initial place that I wanted to get calls from yesterday. So what I did was that, okay, you know what? It hit the price target that I want, and I'm out. There's no reason for me to, to continue holding if it's a scalp, right? And obviously, I could have got back in pretty much at $64, right? I paid 63, sold it for 78, could have got back in at 64. And right now it's about $92, right? And this is from the opposite direction of what the watch list is saying. The reason being is that, right? So just because we have a watch list and we have calls and we have puts categories, right? But you have to play the trend. And if the trend is going bearish, what do? You go bearish, right? You play what the market is giving you, not what you think is going to happen. You have to react, right? I'm also actually in, I know Love's gonna laugh at this, I'm actually in Exxon puts. The same thing that I did with Oxy, I got into Exxon puts, right? So
you're not in them at the same time though, right? Like you just played one and now you're playing another.
Exactly. No. I got both of them at the same time. Right. And that, I don't like doing that. I'm very, very cautious with it. Yeah. I just saw the resistance, right? Because mind you, we opened up ahead of, where we closed yesterday, right? So I know.
But why not just get more of the first put? Why did you get puts across like two different ones?
Well, so when I looked at, like, I only like to do one trade at a time, right? If I'm in a position. But what I saw, on Exxon, and the same thing that I saw on Oxy, it was just acting the same exact route to me, right? So we had this resistance over here, which is at the bottom left corner. I saw a resistance over here, and I'm saying, you know what, like, being that way we opened up, I know that we should, come back down a little bit before we probably run back up, right? So this was just more of a, okay, well, we're in an area where it's going to be resistance. $90 for Exxon is generally in a resistance area if you pay attention to what Exxon does, right?
Right. So I see why you got an Exxon.
Yeah.
Exxon, but why Exxon and
why Exxon and Oxy?
More Exxon.
Well, I mean, so you're asking me why did I only do Exxon? I mean, why did I do Exxon and Oxy?
Why did you do them both instead of just putting more in the first one?
Well, because I wanted to test the water, right? So if I was wrong on Oxy, right? What if I got into these puts and, I'm basing it off of that trend and it just pumps and goes the other way on me, right? Because I am not playing my watch list, right? I'm not playing where I said, okay, I'm going to get into puts if it goes below 58.48. That's my entry for puts, right? So what I was doing is like, okay, you know what? I'm going to play off of the resistance. I'm going to see how the resistance is, if there's going to be resistance. If not, I'm going to get out with a small little loss. So I have a stop loss I placed when I had it for 63. I had a very tight stop loss at $58, right? So it was going to be a $5 loss max that I was going to lose on that trade because it was in resistance. That's just, my thinking on that aspect. And
so are you going to switch it anytime today? Because oil is still going up, but all the oil, like all our favorite oil stocks, are going down.
Yeah.
Are we looking for like the perfect opportunity to say, okay, let's grab
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I want to see the reverse on the trend, right? So if we're looking at, like, let's take a look at Exxon, right? So we're looking at Exxon it pumped right now is in a bearish trend, right? And let's just hypothetically take a look. This is on the 1 minute chart, right? So because that's what I played on, it's a 1 minute chart, and we'll look at the 15 and on the other ones as time goes on. But what I look at is this, right? So when you see this pump up and this crossover happen, right? So now you have your 9, your 20, your VWAP, everything crossing over at one section, right? At that one section, that turns to be a little bit bearish, right?
Right.
And then now we have the 200, which is my green line, right? Crossing over. It just crossed over my 9 for a bearish sentiment. My 20 is about to cross over to the 200 for a continuation of a bearish sentiment. So because I got in at this area right here at the 89 area, where's my exit strategy? My exit strategy will more than likely be where the calls is at the 88.76 mark, right? Because that is where my original entry for calls is, right? So now, well, what do I do if, I could still play this out and say, okay, you know what, I could hold it, right? But I did not get this week's expiration. I got May 20th expiration because I feel that there's going to be some sort of drop. We will see 85, 86, 87 area. If not today, then, within the next couple of days. But I am up 15% on these puts, right? So I'm up about $48 on these contracts. I got it for $320, and right now it's at $367, $370, right? So I paid a little hefty for it because I wanted to give myself additional time just in case if I got reversed and it went up, right? And I could have held these contracts over because I know how Exxon works, right? I've played Exxon numerous amount of times. So it's one of those charts that I like playing. And yesterday we got into calls, so we did the exact opposite, right? So yesterday got into calls, and man, like that yesterday's plays was pretty phenomenal. We got in yesterday's entries was basically where the put line was, right? And we ran it up. We ran it up to 88.78. My price target was 7 cents off for my 4 calls, right? Which was pretty awesome. And like I said, like I just like based off of what the chart is doing, I got into these puts. Not many people would have gotten into these puts, because they feel like it's still going to go up. Me, I'm holding on to it just for now, just because I'm seeing, on the rejection that it's having. I'm seeing a bearish sentiment on Exxon right now, which is why I have it, right?
You know what? One of the reasons, remember we were talking about yesterday on live stream that I had CVX calls.
Yep.
Remember they were for June 6th, 17th or something. and I sold them because the algos were starting to get bearish.
Yes.
And then this morning happened, and obviously there was a slight spike up, but still not enough that I
Right.
should have kept my calls.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about like maybe re-entering if I can see if the trend starts to reverse. But honestly, like today, that's not the discount that I'm looking for. I
Right.
think that because I sold AMD. Sorry, my head is so big. So because I sold AMD, I think I'm looking to get into some Nvidia longs.
Oh,
That
I
was
like
my
that. I
plan.
like that. Let's just pull it up, right? Let's pull up the video.
I mean,
Now I have like all these crazy lines there from previously, right? And we're like way below.
there anymore.
Right. So let's just take a look at how long has it been? The market has been now open for about over 30 minutes, so 45 minutes. Let's just take a look at this, right? So when Love is looking at longs, which is unbad on NVIDIA, and here we go, right? So on the 15, for instance, we have I want to see how this, candle closes, right? So you want to see where, for the traders that want to look into getting longs, right? You want to see where the bottom is, right? You want to see where is there support, where is there major support for getting longs. Scalping and swinging trades are two different things, right? And you have to understand that, right? You have to understand that, okay, where is the bottom? Where's the potential bottom? And how long are you going to give yourself, right? So if Love is probably going to give herself to what, June, July, more than likely,
Yeah.
probably a little bit longer. But so what we look at is like, okay, well, we saw this on this 15-minute time frame. We're seeing a wick over here at the bottom of the candle, right? So now we have to see, okay, is there room for this continuation to go to the downside before you think about getting into calls, right? For swing plays. We're not talking about scalping or
Right.
day trading, right? So what we have to look at is like, okay, well, right now, if we go further back, we see, look to the left, right? You look to the left, there is still opportunities for this continuation to the downside, right? Just based off of what we have done, right? So what I look at is, okay, you see this area right here, this is where the sell-off happened, right? And when we pumped back up, did we surpass this level? No, we touched it and we fell again, right? So right now, personally, I would wait to see how this reacts, right? To get into swing plays, right? So I'm not saying that we're going to see 280, 185 again, or we're going to see 182, 183 again. I'm not saying that, right? But when you're swinging, you want to be, very cautious, right? Because getting into into NVIDIA at 191 or 192, and then getting NVIDIA when it comes down to 185, 183, that's a huge difference. That's a $9 difference, right? So for your option plays, depending on which option you choose, just make sure that you're not fighting the trend, right? Like you want to call the bottom as close to possible, but obviously with FOMC meeting today, I like right now would not be the time to get into calls for swing plays. That's just me personally.
Yeah, right now I'm only in. Right now I only have shop puts, which is another thing. I have no clue if I should sell them. They have earnings, I think, tomorrow morning, or I don't know.
Right. So let's just take a quick look at shop and see, since Love has shop, and right now it is in a it's in a bearish sentiment, right?
This is why I'm holding my calls. I mean, my puts.
That's why she's holding her puts, right? Because look, so here's on the 15-minute time frame where you have this rejection on the 200, which is very, very, very important for a continuation to either to the downside or to the flip to the upside, right? The 200 is acting as a resistance level right now. You have a downtrend, but you want to wait it out and see how the following few candles. Mind you, we're only into the market, it's only 10:15, right? And there's no reason for anybody to rush into anything. Please do not rush into trades, right? Because the market is going to give you opportunities.
And that was another thing. That's my plan. You know, I like to have a plan. So my plan going into today, because I was overnighting those AMD calls, was that I was going to sell in the morning no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to wait until, I guess, 2 p.m. is when the president speaks. 2 p.m. is when the rate comes out, I think. And then 2:30 is when J Powell speaks, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep. I wanted to like buy NVIDIA longs then. So I was going to switch from AMD to NVIDIA. But I just want to write it down though, because I can't day trade today. So I knew I couldn't get into puts this morning.
Exactly. So just hypothetically, just letting you guys know, I did get out of my Exxon puts. You guys saw a little alert at the top that came in. I made $40 off of that profit. Like I said, this is all scalping for me, right? So I'm not looking to hold or anything like that. Why did I get out of my puts? Because right here on the 200, it came, it tested, now it's kind of holding above it, right? So I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm going to lose out additional profits from profits that I just made in the morning, right? So my first 2 trades in the morning so far have been green. Made $40 off of Exxon puts, and I made $15 off of Oxy puts just early in the morning. That's easy money, pretty quick, easy money. And if you look at Exxon, take a look at what it just did, right? So if I would have held on to these puts, right now, they're about 330, 340, right? So I sold it for 350. They're at 340. That's a $10 drop. Does that mean that I might get back in again? Maybe, right? It depends on what the chart is giving me. But mind you, my entry for calls was over here, and my first target is over here, right? So I could have played the call side directly over here and got out right here, right? So you could play both ways. I hedge myself all the time, right? So if I'm in a play, I know, Love does the same thing. Love is hedging, with Amazon calls with short puts, right? Like,
but I totally sold those calls this morning. I saw where it was going, and it was like out. So that doesn't mean I won't get back in, but I just need confirmation of a reversal. And so I just wrote I didn't want to break even today. And so I got rid of the calls and I still have the puts. But something I did scare sell this morning?
What'd you do?
I never scare sell. So yesterday, Estee Lauder, I think, came out with earnings and they got beat up. And so I bought some calls, right? And so this morning I sold them, but now I sold them while Estee Lauder was green. So it's not like but just a minute ago, it got really green. And I was like, oh man, I should have just a little bit longer. Because I think they didn't expire until like next week or actually, no, the 20th is when they expired. So it's not like I didn't have time, but I was like, I'm convinced that the market. Okay, so I thought today the market was going to go up
and then down.
Dive, right? I didn't expect it to
drop.
Much drop.
Yeah.
So I had to switch my game plan up. So I was like, I'm just going to get rid of everything except for my puts and then buy, I don't know, puts or calls depending on what happens.
What happens, right? Yeah, this is, like I said, and by now I would have at least tried to scalp SPY several times, probably 2 or 3 times at least by now. But being that FOMC is happening today, I don't want to get, wicked out or, there's days where sometimes I just don't play SPY, right? Doesn't mean that I won't play SPY today. I am going to play SPY today.
It's an expiry day, so it's
but I'm going to wait till unless I see something that I really, really, really like on SPY, then, that's the only time I'll get into SPY. But as of right now, I'm going to probably wait till about 2:30ish after Biden speaks. Oh boy, we have Biden speaking today and we have Powell speaking. So that's going to be a crazy fun, 2 o'clock, right? So, but I do have, let's put this out there, right? I do have these lotto puts that I'm still holding, right? They're lotto puts. I only spent about $15 on it. It's just one contract, right? It's just one contract.
Are you talking about Tesla?
No, I mean, Tesla, I still have that. We're down with Tesla. I don't know if you're still holding. I'm still holding on to these Tesla. These are lotto, right? Like, we're just going to let it ride. We're going to let it ride. But with SPY, I have the $400 puts, right? Just
Oh.
random $400 puts for. I got it for $15 yesterday. I'm holding on to it. It's only $8 right now. I'm just gonna hold on to it. Whatever happens, happens.
So
If
my random lot for the SPY was 440 for Friday.
440 for Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You think it's gonna be 440 on Friday?
I'm not gonna go to 440 on Friday, but it was like whatever it was at a low yesterday. So I got it for really cheap, right? So if there's any sort of spike upwards, I can sell.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying that SPY's gonna hit 440 by Friday. I mean, it's SPY.
No, I wasn't gonna spend real money on that. Anything less than $10.
It should be funny with that, right? But we do that all the time, right? We play lottos at especially on me, I play SPY lottos, puts and calls on both sides, right? And one of the two, knock on wood, one of the two gets me at least 100 to 200% every consistent.
Putting it in perspective, this is not a significant portion of any of our, literally, we're talking about buying one contract at $10.
That's it.
So my contract the 440 that I bought for $10 is down to $6 right now. So, but had I put any significant amount of money in that, I would be down 40%. So we're talking about the fact that maybe this contract can possibly get up to $20, or if it gets up to 50, hey, but I wouldn't spend more than $10 on it. I don't buy a SPY contract period that's more than $100 ever. And if I'm spending more that kind of money or over $100, it has to be elite. There's no way.
Yeah.
You wait to days like this and they'll be cheaper. Yesterday.
Go ahead.
What was yesterday's high for the contract that I bought for $10? It was something ridiculous. It's wait to the expiry date to buy contracts, even if they're not same day. Yeah, it was worth $22 yesterday or something like that. No, don't overpay.
So I might actually like to get into Oxy puts.
Ooh, more downside?
Yeah, I see more downside happening.
Now, mind you, I keep an eye on futures and things like that. So the cost of oil, crude and Brent, is up. Both of them over 3.5%. So the fact that these things are going down is contrary to what should be happening. So to me, that equates to discount. Not right now, because again, we're not at the bottom. So I wouldn't be buying and buying more and buying more. No, this is one of those situations where you do need to be at the bottom when you get in. If you're getting calls, which I am, but if you're about to scalp and you see a trend, why not get in now?
And you look at Exxon, right? See how the spike happened, right? So know where your exit strategy is. These contracts are now at 330. I sold it for 350, right? And they're already down $20. So I would have only made $10 profit if I would have still held on to these, right? But you have to understand that, when you start seeing that reversal, it doesn't matter if you're able to day trade and if you're able to scalp. There's no reason for you to ride the elevator, right? So your profits go from 80% down to 10%, down to 15%, down to 5%. There's no reason for that, right? You can always get back in. There's always going to be a trade available for you the following day or following later on in the day, right? And the market we're barely open in an hour, right? And you see, look at Oxy, right? That's why when I saw this little right here, and I was like, okay, I might want to look into puts. I didn't get into puts, right? And you see that drop, right? Yeah. But that was just because, reading what the trend is giving me, and understand that, this is where our entry is for calls. We have not broken out of it, right? After we fell through, we haven't broken and based above it for calls. So there's no reason for me to get into calls. Yes, my put entry is supposed to be at 58.48, but I can always play the resistance if I'm comfortable with it, right? So when we look at puts, why do we look at puts at the bottom and not at the top? Here's the number one reason why, okay? This is an area of what? Support, right? The moment a support gets broken, what happens? It goes towards the next support, right? Or the next area of demand. If you're playing calls, you can play calls, right? And say, for instance, you decide to get calls at this level right here because, hey, this is support area, this is demand area, right? What happens to your calls if it breaks below? Now you're going down, right? Now your contracts are the wrong way, right? And that's where, that's where you guys, um, understand that there's a reason why we do calls at the top and puts at the bottom sometimes, not all the time, right? But this is just off the watch list.
It's a
If it breaks,
yeah.
right? If the resistance breaks, what happens? We go to the next resistance, right? So concept is this. A lot of people do the opposite. They buy puts at the top, they buy calls at the bottom, and they're like, okay, well, maybe the puts will make money because it's that resistance. No, you could try it. Absolutely, but you have to have a tight stop loss, because one wrong move on your resistance for puts, you're gone, right? Those contracts are going to end up going down.
That happens if you don't wait for candles to close before you enter.
Exactly. And I know, Love, I think somebody had a question for you.
Yeah, I had asked them. Someone had asked how to hedge, because I had mentioned that Shop and Amazon I had hedged, and so you want to explain to them?
Yeah. So, so the way you hedge, right? So, say for instance, either you do options or you have stocks, right? So, say you have AMD shares and you bought your shares at $100 per share, right? And now you have 100 shares for $100, right? So how do you hedge your portfolio? How do you hedge AMD? You buy puts on AMD, right? You give yourself more time, right? And that way you can still make money off of your, at the same time, right? So just in case if you're wrong, what happens? AMD is going up, you're still profiting off of your shares that you have, right? But you don't go in the money, right? When you do hedging, you never want to do in the money. You do a little bit more out the money. You give yourself more time. You pay a little bit cheaper, because as a contract comes down, your value is starting to increase as long as you're giving yourself time, right? But now when you're in calls and puts, so say for instance, I'll give you an example, right? So I am in SPY calls expiring in June, right? I got myself so much time. They're monthly contracts. I got another month to go for these, right? Now, while I have these calls for 420 calls, right, I could start hedging. So what I would end up doing is, like, if I start seeing say for instance, like right here in this area, and I saw that, okay, you know what, I want to get into puts, I am hedging my $420 calls, right? But my hedging will be for this week or for today or for this week expiration, not the 20th, right? Because you're telling yourself, or July, you're telling yourself that you don't want to give yourself, like, you're paying way too much money at that time when you're trying to hedge yourself for the same expiration, like you're straddling. And at that time, if you do not know how to straddle, like, there's no reason for you to be in that play whatsoever, right? So when you're like, if you have calls expiring this week, for example, and you want to hedge it, you buy yourself puts for a little bit further out, right? Because you're saying that, okay, you know what, we can come up, but just in case if I'm wrong, right, I'm paying a little bit less money for out the money puts, and as it's coming down, I'm grabbing profits, right? I do that consistently. I consistently hedge my portfolio.
Especially if I have more expensive options, like if I'm playing Tesla or Amazon or something like that. And what else? Like with Tesla, what I did was I bought calls for May 20th, but I bought a put for this week, right? So I used different time frames, but you don't always have to hedge necessarily, I don't think, with the same stock, because say for instance like I could have bought I'm really bullish, not right now, but let's say I'm really bullish for a Tesla long term, and I'm buying like spending quite a bit of money on calls a couple months out.
Yep.
And maybe I buy some SPY puts as a hedge, right?
Yep.
But it's about knowing how your stock trades and what trades with it. Like yesterday, I was for some reason super bullish on Amazon, or no, I was super bearish on Shop. And I bought Amazon Amazon calls as a hedge. So I bought a bunch of Shop puts, but just in case I was wrong, I picked a stock that moves pretty much exactly with it for the most part. They're highly correlated, and I used that as my because there was still a small possibility that I could be right on both ends, because of they are technically different stocks, but I did use it as a hedge. But I sold those Amazon calls.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Out. I don't want any of those problems. Not, you know, today's gonna be a strange day no matter what.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it. I think that, yesterday I kept saying it was gonna be choppy all day. That's
Mm.
it. That's all we could count on, and it was literally one of the choppiest days we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Day, I just think there's gonna be more uncertainty, and so it's gonna go in a direction, but it's not gonna like right now. I don't think that it's like, is it dying? No, it's kind of ranging, isn't it?
No ranging. Yeah. Like this is that choppiness range, right? So what you do is like if I'm looking at SPY and I'm saying, okay, do I want to play SPY right now? Right. So, this is around 10:30. We start seeing some sort of a directional move.
Yes, it's
Around
10:30,
10:30, right?
10:30, 11, oh, what, 9?
11:09. Yep. So there's we call these, these are times frames where it can go up, it can go down. There's a trend. That's a solid trend that happens. You start noticing a doji candle around this time period, right? So right now, I am actually looking potentially to get into a scalp for a SPY. I'm hoping that I'm not going to miss my entry. But this is, like I said, it's going to be very, very quick in and out, right? So if I'm wrong, I'm out of my play quickly. If I'm right, based off of the time frame that I'm looking at, I will probably hold it or not hold, right? So I'm still haven't decided if I want to, because I'm looking at the way like the 1 minutes are moving. It's if I'm uncomfortable with the position or with the trade, then I'm not going to do it, right? Because why am I going to spend money on it? And right now, these contracts are a little pricey. Like if I'm looking at the 415 calls, for instance, they're about $300 right now. I don't want to pay $300 right now for the contracts. Now, why is this happening? Because fixes because of the way VIX is working right now, right? So the daily expirations right now are very, very expensive. Because right now, at a 420 call is $120, and we're $5 away from that. I'm not about to spend. So you have to think about it, right? Like the premiums are high right now. So do you want to get yourself into a situation where you're spending so much money on a premium to be 10%, to be 20%, right? Right. Psychologically, you got to think about this, right? So if I'm not 100% clear on the direction, I am not going to play SPY, right? So when I look at SPY, and I'm going to, give you an example, right? So this is how I do my predictions, and this is how, based off of the price targets, not predicting where the market is going to go or where SPY is going to go, the price action that SPY is going to move. So based off of what SPY is doing, give me 1 second, I'm just looking at the 15-minute chart. So I have the 15-minute charts pulled up. I have the 10-minute because I want to be, a little bit accurate on, on where SPY can go, right? So if we break out of this area right here, which is the low of 1443, we will see about 413.91 area today. And then if we break below that, we have 413.15. And following that, we have a flush. We'll have fear in the market where it could potentially sell all the way down to 410. I mean, you'll have some sort of support level around 411, 412, but that's just fear, right? Because once fear kicks in, what happens, right? People start selling, everybody just starts selling, right? So you got to be understand like, okay, well, what is SPY doing, right? Well, SPY is basically, right, you have your high, you have you have a little pump here, then you have a little bit of a higher. This candle has not closed above, your previous pump, right? So you have your pivot and you put, your pump, and this is weak. All this is weak, and notice that, it's going to hit today's low, which is right about here. If it can, and we will drop it, and we will see 413.91 area, right? So you have to understand that, okay, well, if I would have gotten into calls, hypothetically, if I would have gotten into calls, I've already been down $1, right? Like $1 down movement, I've already lost $50, $60 per contract, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like you have to understand, like, okay, well, does that move make sense? Absolutely not. Right, because I didn't see any confirmation saying that I want to get into calls for SPY, and I am not going to get into any calls for SPY. Am I going to get into puts right now? Absolutely not. You do not chase the candles.
No.
Never, ever, ever chase the candles. You wait for a pullback, right? SPY will always give you a pullback. At that pullback, it's for you to decide at that moment, do you want to get into puts or not, right? That's the difference between having, being a smart trader than, just, okay, I'm just going to follow the candles. No, never just follow what the candles are doing, right? You had to wait for confirmation. We've seen, Love and I have seen this happen numerous amount of times, right? Well, we see big candles happening, and then 2 minutes later, we're right back to where we started.
Like seriously, you don't want to do that. You don't want to chase those type of things. Like it will burn your account for sure. Like you're like, I just want to get in early.
Yeah, there's no reason.
Forget the early. You want to be correct. That's the key there.
So Nike was one of the other ones that's on the watch list, right? And I was trying so hard to get into Nike this morning, but the spreads were just ridiculous. Like I'm talking about ridiculous spread. And when I have a spread so crazy, I cannot I'm not going to play the ask price at that time, right? Because you're talking about the 122 puts, I believe, had like a $40 spread.
Oh my God.
I can't play a $40 spread in the morning, right? Even right now, when I'm looking at Nike, now like it came down just a little bit. The 120 puts, for instance, are between 155 and 162. The 122 puts are between 240 and 260, right? I don't like that spread. That's way too much of a gap for me, and we did hit the first price target, right? So at 122.16 we got down over $1, right? So anybody that was able to scalp to get into the puts made money, right? But I just couldn't, because like the spread was just way too wide for me. And when I see a spread so crazy, I do not get into the position, right? I say, okay, you know what? I'll wait till about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then 11 o'clock, I'll see where the market is going, because that's going to be the trend, right? We're going to see a solid trend at 11 o'clock, and we'll see where the market is kind of going on a typical day, right? Not on an FOMC day, right? This is on a typical day.
Because speaking of typical day, so any other day, I think my moves this morning would have been correct, but now I'm looking at Estee Lauder and like it feels like it wants to take off, right? Remember I told you I had some Estee Lauder calls this morning? Yeah, like it's up. Since then, it came up a whole nother like almost $3 since I mentioned it on this live stream. I'm so upset that I sold those. I'm actually just mad right now.
Yeah. And, speaking of that, look at SPY real quick, right? Imagine getting into puts at this level right here, because you saw these candles come down, right? This is on a 1 minute time frame. And you're like, I'm getting into puts, right? And what did it just do? It just bounced right back up. This is why you have to be very cautious when you're playing SPY. It's not easy to play SPY. Understand that, right? Like you have to sit and watch SPY. Yeah. Like some certain things you could actually go, about your day, come back 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, you'll be okay. Not with SPY, right? With SPY, you cannot sit there. You cannot just say, okay, I'm going to get into puts and then walk away, come back an hour later and hope that you're profitable. That's not the way SPY works, right?
Since I only swing instead of scalp, I don't play SPY often at all. And the only time I actually do is probably when they're like expiry days and I have scalp slow. Other than that, you cannot. It's not one that you can hold overnight. You should not do that. Like I said, I would buy a leap or something for sure, but I wouldn't buy something serious like spending $10 on a OTM. That's just a lotto play, but there's no way, because the day before you buy, even if you're correct, you're probably paying too much.
Yeah.
So if you bought SPY anything yesterday, you probably paid too much for it. Yep. That's a reality. You just have to accept it. So for people like me, I don't usually do that because I'm always going to have to overpay because I can't sell same day. So it's just one that if you can't watch it, if you can't scalp it, you'll probably get owned by it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like what Love said, but you have to look at, different time frames, right? So that's just what I look at, so that way you guys can
today, right? Like being that it's the Fed and the president's talking, usually by now we've seen some live stream that would be like, oh, look at this. We have
I'll be already, like I said, I already probably have a couple plays already out, right? So
a couple, you would have been in 15. I was in it 5 times. And then I went over to this one. It was like, really? Because all we did was make coffee, and you're telling me you.
Yeah, I'm already in. And sometimes when I give out the users, I'm like, all right, cat, boom, 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 boom. They're like, wait, Romeo, it's only been 5 minutes. You're already in. Like, yeah, it's just, you got to be in and out, right? Like, you have to know.
Say that you kept like buying SPY contracts.
Yep. And I think I had 10 like I paid 10 times within an hour. I think within an hour or whatnot.
Even after 3, you're like, I'm gonna get back in. Really? No, like you, like, I still got 10 minutes.
Yeah, she was just like, you're crazy. I'm
right.
But like, if you have to understand it, right? So if you can't understand SPY, don't play it. Like, seriously, it's not. Everybody's like, well, I could just buy puts because the market is going to go down, and the market has to go down, and because the market has to go down.
Like, seriously, I think it's gonna break 250 today. I'm mad. I'm FOMOing right now because I scare sold. So
you scare sold, right? And you see this. What I say, right? Like, at any given time, the SPY can change its course, and that that this is looking a little bit solid. What's it going to do? It's going to try to retest the 415.87. If that, it'll probably try to test the VWAP. If it breaks VWAP, it's going to try to test the 416.69. Right? That's how. Can you trade like that with a small account? Absolutely, you can trade like that with a small account. But you have to play it smart, right? So you do not want to trade $200, $300 contracts on a small account. That makes no sense, because now you're not. If your small account is per se $1,000, right? You want to use on your contract that you get into 10% of your portfolio, not more than 10%, right? Why? Because on SPY, if you're using 30% of your portfolio on one position and you go wrong, what's most traders going to do? They're going to ride it, right? They're going to say, okay, it might come back around. It might come back around.
They might actually buy more.
Yeah.
If it's down this percentage, I need to average. No, you don't. Now, if you have a small account and you took time to study the SPY, I think there is a path for you to be successful at it, for sure. Because I remember thinking I had a lot of information about Tuesday or Thursday and Friday. I remember one week, and I had a $250 account. And I was like, I think the SPY is going to hit here, because it was here. It was at 4 something last week and all that stuff. And so I did buy an out of the money call that helped grow one of my small accounts. But I think that's going to be rare and far between. Like, you go out of the money on the SPY, it's like hero or zero. There's no in between. Mm-hmm. And it's not worth the risk, right? If you're trying to grow a small account. With small accounts, you want to be in more confident trades, less risky, because you'll end up going. Say you have $300, you'll end up with $80 if you go too risky and you're wrong. So you don't want to do that.
So I'm just keeping an eye on SPY, just looking at it. And like I said, this is off of a 1 minute, right? So if you're not comfortable, you never want to play off of the 1 minute time frames, right? So I'm just looking at, how some of these are, what it's doing. I'm seeing how it's reacting to the 9. I'm seeing if it's reacting to the 20, and basically if I'm looking at, what is it doing, right? Like, is it trying to go a little bit bullish, or is it going to just kind of stick in this range and probably drop back down a little bit? Where is this price action going, right? So I'm looking at key levels, right? And I know that, okay, well, if it decides to break to the upside, where is it going to go? It's going to test, certain areas over here. I feel that, this right here, as much as I want to play SPY right now, like, you guys have no idea how hard it is for me right now not to get into SPY, right? Like, you have no idea. Like, I have my phone up right here, right? I have everything ready to go. I'm like, okay, do I want to press that buy? Do I not press buy? But I got to, I cannot simply, I'm buying more. B Finger's always buying more. I'm not going to play it, because I don't like the, the amount that's, you typically at this moment, I could get the 415 like in the money contracts right now for about 200, 250, right? And right now they're about 310, 320, right, per contract. And in the mornings, like if I feel like, okay, well, this is going to be a nice little run, or I'm playing off of certain levels, I would have gotten into calls at this level right here, which would have been 415 to oh 08. And we would end about 415.55. I probably would have sold, right? Like I don't stay into
I would have told you to go at 416, but
yeah. Right. No, but like the reason why I did because like I wait for my crossovers, right? For my EMA crossovers, because the way I play my 1 minute chart, it's a lot different than what most retailers do, right? So understanding that, this is an area where I could have gotten into calls, right? Like that moment it crossed, it came back, it broke. This is the base.
Like, are you talking about the 9 and the what?
The 9 and the 20, right? So my blue is a 9 and my and that's my 20, right? You see how it crossed over, right? So what I do is like I don't sometimes if I miss this entry right here, I wait for this pullback. Here was a pullback, and this is where I would have gotten into my calls, right? Because it's still hugging the 20 if I was to play calls today, right?
Is that because we talk about this stuff all the time, but there's some people who have no clue. So we're talking about the EMA 9 and the EMA 20, and when he said cross, the EMA 20 was above the EMA 9.
Right. So when you see this orange line right here, like I want you guys to take a look at it. This 20 is your 20, this is a 9. When the 9 is below the 20, like the way it is right here, this is in a bearish sentiment, right? You do not try to get calls right away. Like you want it to settle. Let it settle. This is where it's settling right here, right? This is a settle. And then you want to see if it crosses. Notice over here, it did not cross. It came very, very close, right? So you want to see how is the price action moving accordingly, right? So when it crosses over, you'll have a semi-bullish it could last for 2 minutes, it could last for 3 minutes, but this is where scalpers' dreams are, right? Because that moment it crosses, you're going to see a nice 20, 30, 40, 50 cent pump. And that 50 cent pump on SPY is big, right? Do not get that twisted. On SPY, it's huge, right? Because your contract, depending on how many contracts you have, you can end up making 50, 60, 80 bucks per contract. $30, $40 per contract just on a 50 cent move, right? So understand that with SPY is the right entries is always the most important part, right? So what I do is like I wait for that cross. So you see how it crossed over here, it came back. I was very tempted. The contracts were for the 415 contracts at that time were about 304, and they are right now at 320, right? But that's just for me. It's just like I don't want to spend $300 on on a scalp play, and even right now, even with this little pump. It's at 320, right? So I'm only going to make $16 on per contract. That's not worth it for me at this stage. At this level, it's not worth it because that's not a clear direction where I can end up spending $150 or $100 later on today for in the money calls, to maybe 200 max in the money calls, and any kind of movement is going to be significant, right? But this is why you cannot
This is the 1 minute.
Yeah, this is on the 1 minute, right? I play off of the 1 minute. You guys don't have to play off of the 1 minute, right? I consistently suggest minimum it's a 3 minute chart. Unless you're comfortable with a 1 minute, you do not play the 1 minute, right? 1 minute is, we're not saying they're for professionals or anything like that, but you can get
really quick.
You get wicked out so bad, and you don't even know what to do in your positions, right? So now if I'm looking at the 3 minute time frame, right? If I'm looking at a 3 minute time frame and I see this wick happening right here, right? The moment that my 9 and my 20 cross over on the 3 minute time frame, it's an idea to get into calls, right? Because now you've had your drop, you had your base, right? And this is going to be a rally. But you want that confirmation. Right now, there's no confirmation that it's happening, right? This could easily be just a pullback and then a drop. We've seen this, right? Look, you come here, you have a pullback, you had a drop, you had a pullback, you had a drop, you have a pullback, right? Where is this pullback going to? Is it going to continue to the upside where we can test? Where can it test? You have to understand that, okay, if I'm going to get into these calls, where will it go? if you have no idea where it's going to go or where it potentially could go, do not get into calls like or puts. There's no reason for you to do that if you do not have an exit strategy, right? If you do not have price targets in your mind that, hey, this call or this put is going to go to a certain price, do not get into it. Otherwise, you're just going to lose money, right? Knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen to you guys. But psychologically, that's what they want you to do, right? These are algos that you're playing with. You're not playing with retail traders on, on SPY, right? You're playing with algos. You think retail traders as trading thousands and millions of dollars on SPY calls, SPY at $420? No, you're playing against algos right now. You're playing against computers. So you have to understand that price never lies, right? It always gets to a certain price regardless, either to the upside or to the downside, right? You have to figure out, okay, based off of the movements, based off of where it's going, where can it potentially go to, right? Because all you're doing is you're analyzing the algos, right? Like you're basically saying, okay, based off technical analysis, right? I've seen people talk about wedges. I'm talking about people with tridents and they're like, ascending wedge, descending wedge. There's all comes into play, right? You got head and shoulders. There's so much concept behind it, right? But if it was that easy, everybody would make so much money, right? If it was that easy to say, okay, well, this is an ascending triangle happening here, or this is a descending triangle happening over here, everybody would make money, right? And say, okay, this is going to be a resistance right here, so I'm going to buy puts. Everybody's going to make money. You think the algos don't know that, what you're planning to do or what you're looking at? They understand, right? They're 2 steps ahead of you at the same time. But you have to understand that, okay, you can ride the trend, right? And be able to profit, but making sure that you're able to secure profits at the same time. A lot of traders get FOMO'd and they don't secure profits. They'll see go from green to red, right? And then they will sell red. And then all of a sudden their contract is what? Green, right? Like we've seen it happen numerous amount of times, right? We are part of it. I've been subject to it too. Don't get it, don't think that Love and I haven't experienced any of this, right? We've blown up our account. Yeah, I don't know, like we've struggled, right? But if we had this conversation a year ago, which is crazy, right? We would be in a whole different level, right? Like we would like what we've picked up from the mistakes that we've learned. It's where it makes you grow as a trader. A lot of you
20 minutes ago.
There you go. Right?
Yeah. And by the end of the day, instead of having 1 or 2 contracts, I would have 10, and still it wouldn't be at the bottom.
It still wouldn't be at the bottom, right? And so Exxon, just I know that Hoku.
Yeah, he asked about it. We did talk about it. We mentioned the fact that at some point in the morning we were considering even buying puts because if the action was going. But I also mentioned that I wanted to buy some longs whenever
exactly
bottom. Yep. But I was thinking more of a CVX because I know it a little bit better.
There you go. Yeah, we'll look at CVX real quick too. There was somebody talking about XLM on here, so I just kind of wanted to pull that up for them real quick.
Oxy is one that I think small accounts could favor just because Oxy.
Oxy. Oh yeah, we did Oxy. That's what I did earlier. I did puts on Oxy earlier.
Right. Oxy is like, to me, is a small account friendly.
Yeah, but it is. It's actually pretty good. Let me just look at one thing real quick for you guys. Yeah, those Oxys are now, those puts are still at $92, right? So, okay. Anyways.
I think well, I don't know what tech is right now, but futures just got a little bit of, no, it's about the same.
About the same. All right. So just real quick on Oxy, right? You there right now, don't get into, you don't want to get into calls just yet. You want a little bit more of a pullback. This isn't a bad pullback, right? So your next target, right, said, right, we're at 90. The next target could be 90.19, but this is an area where there's a lot of resistance at, right? And, I don't have it drawn into my demand area, but let me just kind of, backtrack for you so you can actually see this, right? So when I'm talking about why do I say there's, that demand, right? So you kind of go back, that resistance area, you kind of go back and you start noticing, look, this is where, that top of the chain happened, right? And you notice that, this is an area where it's going to get very difficult for Exxon to continue its, it's run, right? So we're not saying to get into puts or anything. I'm not telling you that, right? But if you feel like the trend is still working your way, then you wait for that pullback and then you can get into your calls, right? So this is where that entire area where the price targets are at. So between 918, you notice that right here is where they bought it up, right? So if they can surpass the 918 area, where can the price actually go to? The next one will be 990.82, and then the 991.50, where that has been the all-time high, right? The 52-week high. If it breaks this 51.91.51, we don't know where it can go to, right? That's where you have to, like you cannot say, oh, it's going to go to 95, it's going to go to 100, because you don't know, right? We've never been there. We've never tested those waters, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is like you have a trailing stop loss in place. Once you break those levels and you're in calls and you're above where all-time highs are, what do? You start putting you do your trailing stop losses in place. Why do you do that? Imagine you saying, okay, it's at 91.50, we broke, we're at all-time high, right? I'm going to keep my contracts and I'm not going to have a trailing stop. What happened on this candle? Right? We dropped from 91 all the way down to 85. That's a huge sell-off that happened the moment it hit all-time high, right? Understand, the psychological aspect of it, right? So you don't want to chase. At the same time, you have to understand where can the price targets go. If there is no area for the price target to go up, then you have to be careful. Just like coin, right? Coin hit 52-week low. It hasn't been in these these levels prior. I cannot play puts on on coin because I don't know where it's going to go, how low it can go to, right? Because it could easily reverse because there's no bottom, right? Until the price settles and until you start seeing that, okay, these are the new levels of support. How are you finding good trades like SLB? All right, so what I do
like
yeah, even Love did not even know about SLB. She was just like, I don't even know about SLB, right? So and you guys, this is yesterday, right? So just to kind of give you an example for yesterday, and I told my our member.
Where's Romeo finding these things? That's a great question.
That's a great question. So I'll go back. I'll go into that, right? And this is just this is basically off of yesterday, right? I said calls above here, puts below here. And man, did we take off yesterday, right? So this is yesterday's price action, and we took off, right? And we hit two price targets today. It actually, if anybody swung through, man, like that play was awesome, right? So what I do is like I look at sectors, right? And I see sectors where we're doing oil, energy, and I look at what's in there, right? Like, and I look at what stocks are in that sectors, and I start dissecting it. What has volume? Right? What is the least talked about stock, right? But has volume. Why do I look for volume but has the least talked about stock? Why? Because there's not that much manipulations that's going to go on if it's not talked about, right? If you have a good volume on this and you see the pattern and you're seeing that, okay, what it does, how strong is it? What is my how are the spreads between the options, right? How is the volume on the options? How's the prices on the options? I look at all those things and then I'd say, okay, well, does this make sense? I backtrack it, right? I analyze it. So when I'm giving you guys these calls and puts level, what do, right? I go back and I test the theory. Okay, so I said calls and above, right? This was on May 28th. April 28th. Calls, okay, the theory worked. Go back, puts, right? Theory worked, right? So calls, theory worked, right? So you have to understand that, okay, if, in the range that we are at right now, where can it go to? Does it make sense for us to play that position, right? And it's been a very strong stock, right? Like it rarely is in this area that it's in right now. But we don't go chasing and we don't say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get, super longs or whatnot, right? So I look at the sectors, right? I see what's in demand, energy, oil, right? And I look at what is being not beaten up, but has been ranging between certain dollar amounts, right? Because I don't want to get you guys into a play where it only moves 50 cents and now you're struggling to think about, okay, what do I do anything here, because there's no opportunities for you guys to make money on calls or puts when it only moves 50 cents, right? Like you have to be adequate, and majority of the time what happens is that the spread is so wide that you're not going to make any kind of profit off of it, right? So I look at, all right, what is stable, what can move between $1 to $2 to $3, right? Even that $1 to $2 range is still perfect, right? And then I look at the spreads. I look at, okay, what kind of volume are these options having, right? There are other plays that I look at, and even though they have volume on like the daily volume could be 13 million, but there's no volume on the options. So I am not going to look at that particular option then, right? Because you want volume on your options. If you have no volume on your options, it's going to be that much harder for you to get out of your contracts, right?
Yeah, you do not want to be in a situation where you can't get out of your contracts. It is a
Absolutely, absolutely not, right? And I mean, we had that moment with KKR. I
Yeah.
loved KKR, right? And we had a situation where KKR, like, we followed the analysis. We're saying, okay, it's going to go, based off of the movements. This is before I was even doing TAs, right? And just based off of chart patterns, right? Because of what it's supposed to do. And we were looking at contracts, and the spread was so crazy. There was no volume, right? And now we're sitting there. We're like, holy crap! Like, it should be at $75, and they're at 50 something dollars. But then, what we failed to realize was that there was no volume, right, on the contracts. So when you are when you're looking for stuff, you got to make sure that you look for volume on your on positions that you can potentially look for, right? So Neo, for instance, Lucid, all those ones have good Neo's like one of the really good ones that for small accounts you can really make money off of Neo, right? Because the contracts are so cheap. And right now where Neo is at was 1690, right? So 1690, even the $17 contracts, they're about between 80 to 85, and the 17 is 50, 60, 57, right? And the volume is there, right? So there's volume on these contracts. I'm just not going to do Neo because we have earnings, right? And I don't play the day of earnings or the prior day, because of the prices are always a little bit higher with IV and everything like that. I look at Lucid. So there's obviously those are like your bigger ones, right? So if I don't want to play Tesla, if I don't want to play Nvidia, right, I look for other sectors that are part of it that are strong, like AMD, right? AMD is not as expensive as it is with Nvidia, right? So
Right.
Nvidia is like the bad boy, right? Like,
This is why I was willing to play it for earnings, because it was cheaper, right? And if I was right, then I'll make it. But if I was wrong and I played Nvidia instead,
and one of my favorite ones, and Love knows this too, is Apple. Like, I play Apple consistently. I love playing Apple, right? Like, because I know its movements, right? I know when to get in. I know, what I'm looking for, and you guys have to understand this too, right? So this is from yesterday, right? So I said, okay, well, this was intraday, right? So I changed these levels as the day was going on, right? My original was 157.87, right? And we actually went up, we hit 3 price targets. That was a phenomenal play. But being that it was 11 o'clock and we're just seeing these choppiness, that's what Love was saying. We were talking about that yesterday. We were just like, we're just seeing these choppiness. What was Romeo doing? I was scalping left and right. Like,
I mean, I am an Apple. Like,
yeah, I was scalping Apple. Like, the moment like I saw, okay, here's this breakthrough. Okay, I'm scalping, right? Like, I scalped Apple 4 times yesterday, all for profits, right? Because of just the movement. I love playing Apple. So now if I'm looking at Apple right now and I'm saying, okay, well, what do I want to do, right? So first of all, I'm going to remove my, couple of my drawings, and I'm like, okay, well, this is where you start learning, okay? So always on a 15-minute time frame, you look at the 15-minute time frame, you see, okay, where is your area where it dropped and it kind of based and then it kind of rallied right here, right? So at this level right here, which is the 159.48. Where did it go where it got rejected, right? From, not from here, but just in this entire range right here would be right here, right? So for me, now, if I wanted to get into Apple, what I would end up doing is that, okay, if this breaks, right, and it breaks below and it can hold, I would look to get into shorts. So I would look to get into puts, right? If it rejects and it's coming back up, I know, right, that where can it go to? It can hit it can hit 160.09 and then potentially 160.55 because that's the range that it's been trading in. Those movements, right? So if I'm getting into, say for instance, I get into calls at around the 159.50 area, I'm out at 160.50. That's a dollar movement, right? That's your one delta movement on your play, right? But you have to understand how it moves, right? So do I get into calls above any basis? Not yeah, I could do the same thing, right? Like I could say, okay, this is going to be my new area that I want to get into calls for safer, right? This is going to be my area for puts if I want to play it safe, right? Because this is where it's been hugging, right? Just like, when we do our puts and our calls entries, this is basically how you do it, right? You want to say this is your support, this is your resistance, right? That's what it is right now. If it breaks support, where is it going to go to? If it breaks resistance and bases above, where it's going to go to, right?
All of this is vital to know, like before you get into these things, because people always ask, how do you pick an entry? How do you pick an exit? How do you know when to hold? How do you know when to sell? It's like, this is exactly how
This
to
is
do
it.
it, right? Yep. And so if you know these things, if you take the time to research them before, look at the chart, examine it, then you know exactly when to get in, when to get out, right? And you can look at candles for confirmation if you're just trying to time it, like, or look at the width and things like that. But
yeah,
this is vital to know, because this is how you would, if you don't know, this is how you would pick an entry or an exit.
Yep. And the time frame is, I use 15-minute, 30-minute time frames just to kind of gauge it out, right? So if I'm going to look at the 30-minute time frame, the same thing, I'll just take a look at the 30-minute and just seeing what has it done, because now is a time where they start making a somewhat of a you already have enough price data for you for the day to kind of see what it's going to do, right, or where it's going to range, right? So the first, it's already been 11 o'clock, you have that. Now you have price action, you have data, right? Now it's okay to start looking into getting into plays. Why? Because there's data that's been given to you, right? So now you can start being like, okay, well, do I want to get plays? Do I want to get puts? Do I want to get calls? Et cetera, et cetera. This is a time where you can start looking into doing that, right? But always be careful, right? So just hypothetically, if I'm looking at Apple right now and I'm looking at a larger time frame, right now it's hugging the 30, right? You have these wicks at the bottom, right? That's something else that we'll learn as we're streaming. Like our goal is to come out and and give you guys these streams and teach different lessons, right? How to look at candles, how to read certain candles, how to look at patterns, what people are, these gurus are looking for head and shoulders and all that. We'll teach you all that, right? But
I don't use that.
keep it simple. Keep it very, very simple. With our Discord channel, we traded the other day with everybody without any indicators. We didn't use any EMAs. We didn't use any VWAPs. Nothing. We traded blank, clean candles with nothing on there, right? So you can do that, right? You just have to understand how to do it, right? And that's what we're trying to teach you, right? Like,
there's usually more between us because it's more of a today is Fed Day, so it's a little bit unusual, right? Usually I've made fun of Romeo like 18 times by now.
By now, yeah.
For and like landing or for getting into a zillion trades before somebody can blink, like all that stuff. But today's just different, right?
It's just different, right? And like I said, like got into a couple plays early in the morning. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to get into any kind of plays with you guys, just to show you that, okay, well, this is what I'm looking at. There's nothing in there that was interesting. Like I said, Nike, I wanted to do Nike. The problem was that the spread, right? And, where are we going with Nike? Now you have a crossover on the 15-minute, with the VWAP, which you guys will understand what that is a little bit later. With the 9 and the VWAP is that crossover. This is still looking bearish, right? So Nike looks like it can still hit that 120.78 mark. But am I going to play it right now? Probably not, because I'm going to wait for a pullback. This is, now what I do is like, okay,
patient, confirmation. I'm more risky. I'm like, really, I'm having FOMO. I need to buy or sell something.
So how to pick your entry, right? This is the biggest thing because I get that asked me, right? They're like, okay, well, we're on a 15-minute time frame, we're on a 30-minute time frame. Romeo, it's hit that target. Okay, how do you pick your entry? You know that, well, Nike is right here, right? Like, let's look at Nike, for instance. You have Nike hit, prior to this. I mean, it broke through. It's already on the second one, right? What I do now is like I go, this is your 15-minute. Now you pull up your 3 and your 5 or your 1, depending on what you're comfortable with. You zoom, you narrow your time frame, right? You look for that entry based off of the time frame. So now if I was, if I'm going to be like most traders, they'll probably play off the 3-minute time frame. I'm going to my 3-minute time frame. What's that?
I'm getting reports that Biden has already talked. I thought he was coming out
at 2 o'clock.
Well, it says he delivered remarks already. About bringing down the deficit, easing inflationary pressures.
See, outside noise.
Yeah.
I play what's in front of me, except today because of FOMC. But you could ask Love, like, I don't even know who's talking 90% of the time. I'm just trading.
Oh, no, you never do, actually. And then you never like really look at the indices either.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what it is. Did it close green? Did it close red? No.
I don't care. Yeah.
Tunnel vision.
Because like you play what's in front of you, right? You play what the chart is giving you. That's how I do it. So okay, with Nike. So if I was to look at Nike now, like I kind of would zoom in and I would say like, okay, well, am I going to, if I want to get into calls if I want to get into puts because I'm riding the trend, how do I pick my my entry or whatnot, right? So I go into a smaller time frame, which is a 3-minute time frame, and I wait for a pullback. Right now, there's no pullback happening yet, right? So I look for a pullback, and I want to see if it rejects, if it rejects this, the 9 and the 20, right? If I have wicks like this, or where can it go to? Can it hit VWAP? Does it reject VWAP, right? So I'm waiting for a pullback. Here is you don't get into your puts at this level, right? You want to pull back because you don't want to play off of the 9. Like the further out you go off of the 9, you never play puts, right? That's a lesson that I'm going to have to, that we'll go over, right? You want it hugging, you want the hug on the 9 or the 20 to be able to enter. Watching Oxy, it is holding support. Is it time to enter calls? No. I mean, not for me. Why? Because where's my call entry, right? My call entry is at 59.62.
So when I was having FOMO a minute ago, I bought puts.
On what?
Oxy and Exxon.
She bought puts on Oxy and Exxon when she was talking about calls early. See that? That's that market direction change, right? That's a market direction change. But that's why I had bought puts on Exxon because I knew Oxy is going to go down. I knew puts, those are going to go down. But so no, personally, man, I would not get into calls just yet based off of where it's at. And let's just kind of talk about why.
In perspective, seriously. So according to what the price of oil is, it spiked almost $4 a barrel today, right? And so it's high. It's still high, right? And so if anything, I think it's more inclined to come down before it goes back up. And if it does have some random spike, like maybe the market as a whole gets super bullish today, I probably would add to my put position.
I'm actually looking at getting into Oxy puts too.
In my puts, I say puts, I only bought one contract, to be honest. Like, I'm not. I looked at which ones had the most open volume for May 20th, and I kind of.
She goes out further. I don't do that for puts. I play it same day. And look at that drop. Like, so those puts that I had, right, that I sold way, earlier because I got scalped. Those puts that I got for $63, they're $101. That's a $40 movement, right? Almost a $40 movement.
Don't you hate when you miss that?
But that's part of the game, right? That's part of.
I don't like that part.
Yeah, I mean, I probably paper hand the most, right, out of the platform.
Oh, not probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But I make my profits, right? At the end of the day, I could say I'm profitable. That's the biggest thing. What are your thoughts on Apple and Neo for today? Okay. You should script these indicators for alerts. I know, guy. Just saying. No, Carlos. No. All right. Anyways. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure if you saw that, Eli. For Apple, basically, I have these levels out that I put out a little bit while ago, and if it breaks, if I decide to play it, and if it breaks to the downside, right now you see how I was just hugging it, right? So if it breaks to the downside, I'm actually might look into getting Apple puts, but I want to wait for a pullback if there is going to be a pullback, right? So you see how I wait for confirmation. I could have got into puts the moment like it was coming, and I would have been like now I would be like, oh my god, what do I do? Like, do I I'm going to be negative? Do I that's why you wait for confirmations, right?
This
Like
is
I
this
wait.
is how you avoid blowing up your account, people. If
Yeah.
someone like me, that candle that he was just pointing to, I would have got in there. Like, I'm early. I'm ready. Right. And maybe I would be right, but this next candle hasn't closed yet. So I could be very wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's
Exactly. And look at where it's closing, right? This is on the 1 minute, obviously. But look at where it's closing, right? It's going out of it, but where do the candle is closing above it, right? Even when it closes below, I wait for a confirmation. I don't have to worry about if it goes down, okay, it is what it is, right? But for me, it's all about the confirmation. And right now, it's not confirming to me, at least on the 1 minute time frame, that we are breaking to the downside yet, right? Based off of my levels that I want to look at right now. With Neo, like I said, I'm not playing Neo today only simply because I know earnings are happening, and if I was to look at Neo, right? So Neo is going to be looking almost the same exact way as a lot of the other ones, but this is an area where I feel like if it cannot surpass this level right here, right, there's an area of opportunity to go to the downside for puts. If it can break and base above, it can test the VWAP, it can test this area, this green area that was called a couple of days ago, not today, and the 200, right? So you have to have an idea of where can price action go. So for me, like I said, it's all about waiting, right? I don't need to rush into a position and be like, well, I don't care about. Understand that when I'm scalping or when I'm day trading, I do not care about hitting the low of the day, like getting the lowest contract.
You'll miss out.
Exactly. I don't care about that. I pay the ask price, and I'm that's it. I'm okay with it. Why? Because my direction. I know the direction.
Exactly.
Right. So do not go into if you're trying to scalp, right, or if you're trying to day trade, like scalp calls or puts or whatever. You do not sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to pay $20 when it's like $25, $30. Why are you doing that, right? You're not swinging, right? You only do that for swings, right? You only do that if you're right. If you're looking to, swing your plays, if you're looking to, for May 20th or July calls, that's the only time that you put a bid in that you're willing to pay. But if you're scalping and if you're looking to day trade, you never put a like, oh, I want to pay $20. No, you're not playing the chart then, right? Like you're just hoping that your contract hits. Then what, right? But like, what if it was $30 and went down to $20? Your contract hit and it kept going down, right? Because you thought, because you have a bid, right? Because you're not playing the chart. You're not playing what's in front of you, right? That's the difference, right? So when we are playing it, we want to make sure that, okay, well, we're playing the trend. This is your trend, right? So I said, okay, if it breaks this level right here, right, this is on a 1 minute, right? So now most traders will not play on a 1 minute time frame. They'll play on a 3 minute or the 5 minute. And I'm looking at this rejection, right? So I'm saying, okay, well, does this area right here?
Romeo, did you put that red line in yourself?
Yep, just right now.
Okay.
All right.
You said this level, and I'm like, where'd that level come from?
This little red line right here.
Okay.
Why did I say this, right? Because you notice that this is the pump and then the drop, right? This is a pivot point, right?
Where it rejected?
Where it rejected previously, right? So I look at rejections. Look, rejected here, rejected several times. You have these wicks, candles not really closing, right? This was the only one. Rejected the 200, came right back down, right? Are they going lower, right? Like, where is these candles going? It's going lower than this one. It went lower than this one, right? It hasn't hit this wick yet. So it could still base right about this level here, or where can it go? So if this ends up rejecting the 200, the VWAP and the 200, and it comes back down, where is the next target that it can come down to, which is right here, right? And the reason why is that this is where there was demand for it to go back up. Does that make sense to you guys? Demand for it to pump back up, right? So this will be the first area that it will test if it breaks and fails this area right here. So if you wanted to get into puts from 1692 to 1683 for 13 cents, I'm not going to do it. But that's how you look at it, right? Because you have to see, okay, if it breaks, if it fails this area and it comes back down, where can it potentially, come down to? Right here, right? Because that's where it got brought up, right? So you want to look at levels. These are levels, right? So you see how this level right here, it broke, right? This is your base. Where can it test? I was saying that it can test a VWAP. If it tests a VWAP and it breaks a VWAP, where is the next one that the price target can go to, right? You have to understand where, the targets can go, right? So yes, you could have probably gotten into calls over here, but like I said, this is on a 1 minute time frame. So you're not looking on a 3 minute time frame, right? You're only looking on a 1 minute time frame. If we look at it on a 3 minute time frame, you'll see that it's probably rejecting the EMA, the VWAP at least. And you're probably gonna have a break. There you go.
Scalping thing. Remember how you said that typically, or when you scalp, you just want to get in and get out? And we don't do that when we swing. We have to make sure that we're trying to call at the bottom. We get in at the lowest. If you're getting calls. One of the reasons why it's okay to do that is because of the waiting for confirmation first, right? The fact that you've already basically confirmed a trend, or you waited for those candles to close, then you know that it's on an upward movement or a downward movement or whatever, and then you just get in because you're trying to get that trend. You don't have time to try to outbid or something like that because you're missing the trend. You might have actually missed the scalp actually if you do that. Because if it does drop down to your ask price, it's a different trend. It means it's going down, so it's going to go down further, which means you didn't get them. So scalping versus swinging, you just get in when you scalp. Which is why you have to confirm the trend first.
And if you look at the 3 minute time frame, right? So remember, we always wait for confirmation. This candle, what did it do? It closed right onto, it came right there. Following candle. This is your candle for a confirmation of the trend, right? Like, is it going towards the upside or the downside? Is it going to reject it? So you always want to wait for confirmation. Remember, I said that if it breaks on the 1 minute, this is a lot different, right? Because you're able to be in and out, on certain movements. Now with Neo, unless you're getting like 20, 30 contracts or whatnot. But for me, the confirmation on not only, so I use two confirmations if I'm going to, play Neo right now, would be A, if this breaks and holds, B, if this area right here, right, if I see these two cross over, right, which is my 9 and my 20. So on the 3 minute time frame, that's very important too, because that gives you more of that bullish scenario, at least for that moment, like at least for the time being, where can it go to, right? It could test the 1723 area depending on where the 200 comes down to, right? So always look at your where things can be at. You can look at patterns. This looks like an inverse head and shoulders happening on the 3 minute time frame, right? So there's so much things that you can try to look at. This this could end up coming up, but if it can't surpass certain levels, and you're in calls or whatever, you make sure that you have your exit strategies, right? So like your exit strategy would be like right here at this wick area right here, right? If it can't hold that. Absolutely, love you too. So we only got about 5-6 minutes left. So if you guys have questions, this is a perfect time for you guys to ask.
Only question. Can you look at Square for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I haven't I haven't given an alert in Square in a while, have I?
I'm itching to buy some calls right now.
Ooh, let's take a look at this. So are you looking to swing though, right? You're not looking to hold.
Yeah, so we're talking May 20th.
Okay. Let's look at the different time frames. So when we are looking at certain calls like this, right, we want to see different time frames. the longer time frames, the hour time frames, the 2 hour, the 4 hour, whatever you're comfortable with. And let's just take a look at how it is reacting right now.
Oh, and they have earnings tomorrow, so it should
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah,
be out there.
no. Another thing is that we're still in this is a bearish scenario, right? Like, yes, we could have a little pullback, but we have. So if I'm zooming out, like, this is why I would say this, right? You zoom out, and what do you guys see, right? So let me just clear this out for you guys. Clear all drawings, right? Cancel. Sorry. Clear drawings. Yep. All right. This is what we have, right? So what do we see here? And I want you guys to see this, right? This is your high that you had, right? Then you had a pump. You had another. You had the pump. You had a. Right. These are all lowers, right? Lower, lower. Then you had a pump. But where did this pump go to? It really. Sorry, right here. Right. It matched. And then where's the next pump? Right. It's going lower again. Right. So understand the pattern. Why would you? Not saying love in general right now, because I know that she'll give herself additional time, but most traders, why would you try to get into calls, right? When it's in a downtrend, you have lower highs, you have lower lows happening right here. You have lower lows. These are all lower lows happening, right? So why would you get into calls to swing something when the trend is showing you that we're on a downtrend? Right. So what people forget about is this. They say about FOMO, oh my God, but it's going up. Why should I get calls? That's the best time to get calls. Why would you do the opposite, right? Like, why would you play puts when it's going up and calls when it's going down, right? It makes no sense, right? Play the trend, my friends, play the trend, right? If the trend is showing you that we are in a bearish sentiment, what do? Play the trend, right? If you can swing and and you know that, okay, well, we can retest certain areas, that's fine, right? That's perfectly fine. But you have to understand, okay, like, if I'm going to hypothetically, trade, and I'm going to look for May 20th calls, right? What would I do? So I would look at, maybe 30 entries, and I'll look at, okay, where's the volume at? Where's the volume on both sides, right? And I'm saying, okay, well, this is, if in the money right now, I mean, this is, sorry, Apple. Why am I looking at Apple? We're looking at Square. So this is Square, and let's minimize this one, right? And so you start looking at, okay, well, the $100 calls right now, there's about 119 volume on them. Okay, the put side, you have 200 volume on the $89. You have 436. Where's my delta at? If I decide to get the $100 calls, where's my delta? My delta is 45. My theta is 27. Okay, does that make sense for me, right? Do I want to get into these and pay, $600 right now? Not right now. No, not right now. I wouldn't. Why? Because just like Love said, we have earnings tomorrow, right? So premiums right now are expensive. Know that, right?
The IVs are
ridiculous, right? You're going to get crushed so hard, like, if this drops, right? Or if it just stays there, because no matter what, you need a 5% move to the upside or the downside, depending on where, what, if you have puts or calls, right? So just understand that. Yeah, that's Square. Personally, I'm just waiting. I'm looking at SPY. SPY is still dropping, but it's still hugging it's still hugging the area that I've been saying it's going to, that it's been at. So unless you're able to be nicely, you're able to scalp. Other than that, like, it's not really doing nothing. It's in the same range. Like I said, I'm just waiting for Fed to come out and do whatever they want to do. Talk about 50 base points, 75 base points. If it's 75 base points, if they announce 75 base points, we are going.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna fall, and we're gonna have puts, right? We're gonna have puts left and right.
I still have puts on shop.
There you go. Yeah, so you got puts on shop. My $400 puts will print today. Then, yeah. I'm gonna get like 500% off of those. If
Yeah, time out. No way. Like you would sell when it was like 40%. Oh, this.
hey, my lotto ones I should keep at least until 200%. I've been good with my lotto puts and my lotto calls lately.
Yeah, but honestly, if you would have kept them longer, they would have been 400%. What you do is you just get back in. You sell, you get back in. You sell, you get back in. It was like, really? Because if you just held it for like 5 more minutes, it would have been up 600%.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, let's not talk about that. Let's not give those details out. No, I'm joking. But yes. All right, so no questions, then we're gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed coming out. Fortunately, we didn't really get to play anything. I showed you what I got into earlier and the exit strategies. So hope you guys have a good day. Yeah, see you guys soon.
Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you for being on here. This is the first of many. If you like this, share it with everybody. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to know what all this craziness is about, go to our Discord server, 349 Family. We're all there. Have nothing better to do than stay all day.
I'm about to get into puts right now on SPY, by the way.
See?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What you going to do?
All right, see you guys later.
Adios, amigos.